Welcome back to Director's Choice. Who lives in a pineapple under the sea? SpongeBob SquarePants. His despicable boss, Mr. Krabs, lives in an anchor. And he is probably the most hated character in all of Bikini Bottom.
Ah, the sea. So fascinating. So wonderful. Here we see Bikini Bottom.
Since the very beginning of the iconic SpongeBob SquarePants animated series, Mr. Krabs has had a love-hate relationship with viewers. While he is very important to the plot of the show, he can be very annoying and intolerable, to the point of hatred.
Hello, I like money.
But there must be something to explain why his crabby personality matches his crabby hands. Well, in this episode, we try to break down the psychology of Mr. Krabs. Would you like to know the only person who has gotten away with stealing from Mr. Krabs? Make sure you watch this video to the end. Now, let's get down to unpacking the psychology of the world's worst boss, Mr. Krabs.
SpongeBob SquarePants, SpongeBob SquarePants, SpongeBob SquarePants, SpongeBob SquarePants!
Mr. Krabs is one of the major characters in the SpongeBob SquarePants animated series. Born Eugene Harold Krabs, he is a red crab who is a businessman and single father. He is the owner of the Krusty Krab restaurant, where SpongeBob and Squidward work. Under very unfavorable conditions, Mr. Krabs is very hardworking, especially when the work brings him another way to get money.
Money! Hey, where are you going, beautiful?
Mr. Krabs, wow!
Stop, please! Wait!
Mr. Krabs' family was very poor when he was growing up. He wore patched clothing and didn't have a lot of possessions. During his schooling at Poseidon Elementary, he was bullied for being poor, and his only friend was Plankton. He found a penny, and Plankton told him that he could buy anything with money.
The most beautiful thing the eyes have ever seen! What is it?
It's money.
Money!
Yeah, you could buy things with it.
This is where his love for money started.
Money sweeter than honey. Money, money, this, money, money, that.
When he was 5 years old, his father gave him $1. Mr. Krabs absolutely loved the dollar, but he later spent it to buy soda, and that saddened him. Later, when he and Plankton found a shiny dollar at Stinky Burgers, Mr. Krabs is more fixated on the idea of having money, while Plankton brought up the idea of starting a business.
Gently.
Mr. Krabs grew up to become very conscious about money and acquiring an absurd amount of wealth through his business and mischievous adventures.
Cash, wallets.
His daughter Pearl is the only thing that matters to him, almost as much as his money. He absolutely adores and cares for his daughter, and he will do everything possible to make her happy.
Thanks, Daddy!
The fact that Mr. Krabs had a loving family while growing up makes him have the qualities to be a good father, although he was poor while growing up. He also exhibits the character of a father figure to SpongeBob and Patrick at different times. But his greed tends to override any good qualities that he may have. Aside from his unique style of walking and sailor-type voice, Mr. Krabs is most known for his obsessive love for money.
Money!
But just how bad can it get? Time to find out.
I've landed in money nirvana! My wildest dreams finally come true!
Mr. Krabs is an incredibly greedy character, and it shows in every aspect of his life. He will do anything and put anyone in harm's way just to lay his hands on some money. He is not a stranger to using mischievous ways to get money, and this leads to very poor morals. He is a terrible boss with serious employee violation habits, and he often commits crimes.
Welcome to Bank of the Future.
Hi, I want to see all your money.
Excuse me?
Show me where the money lives. I bet you got a lot. I'd like to see all of it. I'm a huge fan of money.
Mr. Krabs will make any twist and turn to avoid spending money. He has no regard for anything more than making money or getting it illegally. He is also a very annoying miser and chooses to eat crackers, even when he can eat as many Krabby Patties as he wants. A restaurant owner who refuses to eat from his own menu, Mr. Krabs is definitely greedy, and he has always been that way, sadly. Mr. Krabs lives for just one thing: money. And he will put anything on the line, except maybe his daughter, in his quest to get money.
talk about this?
No.
How about a discount on restroom tokens?
Afraid
No,
not?
how's about a free glass of water? A dozen free glasses of water. I'll even put ice in it. No!
Although it is understandable that he didn't have a lot of money while growing up, it doesn't excuse the fact that Mr. Krabs is a disastrous penny pincher. The only thing he respects is money, and anything that brings him money, which is why he often refers to his customers as money.
Yes, yes it is. It's bringing me closer to my favorite part of the community. Their money!
Let's see what other nice people are saying.
Mr. Krabs is so greedy and in love with money that SpongeBob, the most positive character in Bikini Bottom, had to actually use the word obsession to describe him.
Oh, you mean your obsession?
Obsession is kind of a strong word. Sleep tight, me little angels.
Anytime Mr. Krabs has to spend money on anything at all, no matter how little the amount is, he may as well go insane. He remembers every single thing he has ever had to buy. Mr. Krabs has put himself and others in danger, and through very strenuous situations, just to acquire or avoid some money.
Make sure you wrap up that patty. I'm not finished with it yet. Oh! I got it, boy.
Mr. Krabs has no respect for the dead or royalty, especially where his money is concerned.
All free! Nobody eats in me restaurant for free. King or no king. Come on, Smitty, let go. Rest in pieces, Smitty.
Mr. Krabs often raises the prices on his menu if he thinks there is any chance to make more money.
See Neptune eat. Only $5. Only a few seats left. Thank you. Thank you.
Mr. Krabs is so stingy that he doesn't have life insurance, car insurance, hospital insurance, or even a bank account. His greed knows no limits as he continuously abuses his co-workers, SpongeBob and Squidward. Mr. Krabs doesn't pay them well enough, but he makes them work extremely long hours with no breaks. At any available opportunity, he tries to exploit their skills to make more money for himself.
What's going on out here? My babies. Get away, barbarian. What have you done? Nice, clean money.
His greed has made him trespass into SpongeBob's house to retrieve what he thought was a penny that SpongeBob found earlier. There are several occasions where Mr. Krabs' greed has cost him his friendships, customers, and reputation in Bikini Bottom. But he never seems to care or learn from his mistakes. He has only one goal: to get as much money as he can.
Hey, it's my lucky day! A penny!
Your luck just ran out.
Hey man, he's back! You're crushing my arm!
Unhand that penny or the arm comes off.
Mr. Krabs will stop at nothing to get his goal, and he doesn't really think twice about the wreckage that he leaves behind in his pursuit of wealth. His relationship with money is obsessive and compulsive. It comes from a place of insecurity and feeling inferior. He became overwhelmed with the idea of success, which for him is the amount of money he can acquire. He tries to make up for everything he never had while growing up with his borderline obsession with money. More money and nothing but money.
This is my $1 million earned.
Mr. Krabs is so in love with money that if anything threatens to take even a penny away from him, it is a threat. But when it comes to the actual competition, Plankton is his biggest rival. Mr. Krabs and Sheldon Plankton were friends when they were growing up. They had created the original formula for the Krabby Patties served at the Krusty Krab restaurant, but the first version was not very successful.
Just look at them, Eugene. The very people who ridiculed me are now feasting on my recipe.
I thought it was our recipe.
I'm ruling their stomachs.
In the fallout after their business failed, Mr. Krabs got most of the original recipe that got improved to become the recipe for the successful Krabby Patties, and Plankton swore to steal the recipe from Mr. Krabs. They could have been very successful if they had worked on the business together. Plankton is a mad scientist and technology genius, and Mr. Krabs never stops thinking about making money. But Mr. Krabs was greedy, and instead turned his childhood friend into his competition.
First, we rule their stomachs.
And then, their money!
Plankton makes several creative attempts to steal the original recipe. Their rivalry is so deep that Mr. Krabs prepares ahead of Plankton's schemes to steal the recipe and goes insane if there is no recent attempt from his competition.
Did you get the Krabby Patty formula? Like I have to ask.
No, and I probably never will.
Though Krusty Krab remains the top business in Bikini Bottom, Mr. Krabs still makes sure to do everything possible to make sure Plankton's chum bucket remains unsuccessful.
Where could it be? There! Plankton's secret formula.
Any competition upsets him, and he takes joy in thwarting Plankton's attempts to steal the recipe, sometimes with the help of SpongeBob and Squidward. Mr. Krabs' attitude towards competition is very negative and unhealthy. Mr. Krabs is selfish and prefers to be above everyone else, which makes him a villain sometimes. He doesn't want to be reminded of his poor past, and this motivates his obsession for wealth and terrible greed.
Now come on, we have to go check on SpongeBob's possible remains.
Despite his indisputable greed, Mr. Krabs still has a heart. There are times when he shows compassion and is sincerely apologetic towards SpongeBob and Squidward.
I want to work for you here at the Krusty Krab.
I'm sorry, boy. It's all my fault.
Mr. Krabs has tried to use his money to cheer up SpongeBob and make things right with his daughter, which is actually a major feat. Mr. Krabs is sometimes protective of SpongeBob and fears losing his best employee. His occasional kindness and empathy endear him to SpongeBob, who is always loyal to his boss.
Don't let it get me, Mr. Krabs.
There, boy. They won't get you. Not as long as you listen to old Mr. Krabs. Now get back to the kitchen. Time is money.
Aye, Mr. Krabs.
Although SpongeBob and Squidward have disrespected and schemed against him in the past, Mr. Krabs is always quick to forgive and re-employ them. His grandfather, Grandpa Redbeard, once stole money from Mr. Krabs, and viewers were genuinely surprised when Mr. Krabs did not get upset with his grandfather for stealing his money, showing that sometimes there is a little good to be found in every person.
You see, customers at the museum can cook the patties themselves.
Although he is single, Mr. Krabs has had a recurring relationship with SpongeBob's boating instructor, Mrs. Puff.
Hey, that's my driving teacher, Mrs. Puff.
Everyone knows relationships are costly, but Mr. Krabs doesn't mind when it comes to Mrs. Puff, and she brings out the best of his personality. Mr. Krabs gave her everything he could, and was very conscious about his appearance for their dates.
Besides, I ain't properly dressed.
Aw, come on, Mr. Krabs, you look great.
This goes to prove that if he has enough love, Mr. Krabs just has to look beyond the money and put a worth on the emotions. But that doesn't happen often. Mr. Krabs can actually pause the greediness and value the people in his life.
Approximately 10 hours later.
Mr. Krabs is that one character everyone hates, but we still look forward to his appearances in the show. He adds the necessary complexity and sometimes an adventure to the fun in Bikini Bottom.
Grandpa Redbeard! Grandpa, you did it,
While his character is not appealing, there seems to be an explanation for it, as we have tried to analyze in this episode. When you put his history with bullying and a poverty-stricken childhood together, you are left with the crimson greediness of Mr. Krabs.
I just made more money than I know what to do with.
In real life, we all know someone like Mr. Krabs. They are usually obsessed with their career, money, and winning. This can be very unhealthy in their management of businesses, as well as interpersonal relationships. Like SpongeBob, we can try to find the good in them, keeping in mind that somewhere in all the greed, there is a human being with feelings who deserves empathy.
The next day.
That's all for today. Thank you for joining us on the breakdown of Mr. Krabs' psychology. Take a look at this other recent clip by Director's Choice, and make sure to subscribe and ring the bell to be notified with our latest videos.